Hey guys, it's Jason the X with SCNS Live powered by Cinelinks, and I have the joy this morning of talking to Mr. Faran Tahir. Mr. Tahir, thank you very much for talking to us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. We're honored to have you. I gotta say, you're turning into one of those actors that every time I'm watching a major television show or movie, I say, hey, there he is.
Yeah, the guy, I don't know what his name is, but he's around, right?
No,
yeah,
you're also one of those guys. I want to find out who you are. I remember seeing you on Law and Order back in 1993. Was that your first role in television?
Was that my first role? No. There was one other before that because I did this show called Midnight Caller. This was like late 80s, and then I went off to do my MFA in theater and all that. So Midnight Caller was probably my first television role in the U.S.
And you come from a wide acting background, movies, television, theater, even your family has been involved in the business. Tell us a little bit about getting into the business.
Well, my family, we've been in this or in literature and arts for about 3 generations. So there is a rich history there. I mean, our conversations at the dinner table were all about movies, film, theater, television, literature, whatever. But we also had because if you're in the industry, there's the creative side of the industry, but there's also a practical side of it. And my family was very aware of that and wanted to make sure that we also understood that you have to find that balance between practicality and creativity. And their whole point was how do you deal with, no matter how talented or untalented you might be, how are you going to deal with if you get some success in your life, and how are you going to deal with the failures or the disappointments, and how much is it going to affect your core, who you are, how you live your life. Hopefully you won't turn into a broken person. So it was a nice mix of a reality check with the creativity side of it.
I like that, staying grounded. That's very cool.
It is, because our business is so strange that I think you do need to find your buffers and your anchors to kind of keep you grounded.
So, okay, now I know you grew up out in California, and hearing a bit about you, you're a bit of a nerd yourself. Did you get to attend San Diego Comic-Con this year?
This year, no, I didn't. I was traveling, actually, but I have done it in the past.
Well, you have been busy.
Yeah, and it is a lot of fun. It's a nice mix, and plus, you get to see the excitement, which sometimes you lose when you're doing film or television because you don't have the audience in front of you. In theater, yes, you do, but to get that feedback, to see the people excited, really into the worlds that you create for them, it's a great feeling.
See, I would think that if I were you, I could just wear my costume from Star Trek and just walk around the convention, and then you're set. You look exactly like the captain from the Star Trek movie.
I know. Wow, yeah. Yeah, and then my next question should be, was he any good?
So being a nerd and working on these properties, is it just exciting to be included in them? Because I look at actually like you, like, oh, he played the bad guy in Iron Man, but you know what? He was in Iron Man. He had a hand in creating Tony Stark.
I have to say, when being, a kind of a comic book science fiction nerd, that first moment when you walk onto the set, I've always said this, you feel like a 10-year-old boy.
Oh.
There's that moment of awe where you just go, oh my God, I'm part of this. And then, then reality sets in and you go, well, now that you're part of it, try not to make a fool out of yourself.
Uh-huh.
So then you get into that mode. But there is that moment of you go, wow, man, I'm getting paid to have fun. How cool is that?
Oh, it's just an awesome experience, it sounds like. Now, people, they're always associating you with the bad guy, but you've played a multitude of characters on all ends of the spectrum. So I got to ask you, good guy, bad guy, which one do you prefer to play?
I don't have a preference. I think they're both, bad guys are very delicious because you are you're given this freedom to be, not to be liked. You can be as hated as possible, and the more hated you are, the better it is. Uh, so there's some great freedom in that, and you can have a lot of fun. But then again, there is a different kind of an approach and excitement about playing someone who people can trust, who they're willing to go on a journey with, who they're willing to see the story from that character's point of view, and find empathy with the character. So I think there's great challenge in both of them. It depends on how the character is written, how it serves the story, what the conceit of the story is. So, all of that comes into play, but I don't have a preference really.
Well, that's great to hear that you just look at it as far as I'm going to do the best job I can.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, you've done a lot of speaking back to your TV work. I've seen a Law and Order, Charmed, Monk, 24, even around here. I've seen you on Dallas, and one big one, Warehouse 13. Everybody before this was, ask him about Warehouse 13.
All right.
What's been your favorite? Because it almost seems like you seem to attach yourself to the most popular things out there, especially now with Warehouse 13. What's been your favorite work so far?
I believe that whatever was the last thing that you did, it should be your favorite because it shows that you tried to put everything that you had into it. So that's how I look at it, because whether I succeeded in it or not, I needed to put everything that I could bring that day or that month to that particular role. So that's how I approach that. I have been fortunate in being part of these really, really, really amazing projects and working with some really wonderful, wonderful people, crew and cast and all of that. And you do become kind of a family. And I think it's those connections, because in our business, you can work very intensely with people and then you might not see them for a few years. But if you create the right kind of connection, whenever you come back and work with the same person, there's that instant, connection. You don't have to apologize that you didn't see the person for so long. You just pick it up and you go from there. And I love that.
It's like a mini family reunion. I like that.
Yeah, really.
Okay, let's see here. I did have. I'll go ahead and do one question from one of our listeners. This is this is from. I don't have who this was from, but they were asking, are there any plans for you to go behind the camera anytime soon?
That's an interesting question, and I have been working on that, and I think in the next couple of years I will be doing that, because there are projects that are very close to my heart that I wanna share their stories. Also, I think it's because in order to be part of this creative field, it's good to have an empathy and also an understanding of both sides of this, being in front of the camera and behind the camera. So hopefully I don't want to jump the gun, but I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I think I will do that.
Well, hearing your approach to how the series you worked on, it almost sounds like you treat everything as a learning experience and how I can better myself for the next thing that I'm going to. So I can totally understand that approach.
Well, absolutely. Look, the day you think that you have mastered something is the day of your creative death. I think you have to stay forever a student and learn from it. There is humility in learning. You keep yourself open to new experiences that way. So I tend to or try and remind myself of this, that you have not mastered anything, and you probably will never master anything, but you can keep on learning as you go along.
Wow, that is exactly
that's my Jedi moment right there.
Yes, it is. He has had you need to play a Jedi in the next Star Wars movies. I'm just going to throw that out there. Well, we do have the movie Elysium coming up, and you're playing President Patel in this one, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Now, I know it seems like you're kind of the bad guy in this, but I'm thinking you just misunderstood, and you're actually benevolent and caring, and generally a nice guy in this one. So if you want to clarify what role you play in Elysium, please do it for our listeners here.
So look, I mean, I didn't approach the role as good or bad because he is the president, and he's of course a politician, so he is very nuanced. I look at it that I needed to make the guy who's dealing with an issue. Now, whenever you do that in real life or in fiction, let people decide whether he's good or bad. Present your argument, present your point of view, present a life, and then people can decide how they view this guy. The movie in itself deals with some hot button issues of today, just set in a fictional zone. Issues like elitism, issues like immigration, and all of these things. No matter what point of view you subscribe to, there's an argument to be made about that. And I think the movie does a fantastic job at doing that, presenting those arguments. There are hardly any people in the movie, except with the exception of a couple of characters, who you can say that they're good or bad. These are people working with different shades of gray. They are trying to find their own way of going forward. So I didn't look at it that way, because if you approach a character with that idea that he's good or bad, then you're cutting out a plethora of choices that you can make with the character. So I don't go in thinking, even the most evil guy, when he wakes up, doesn't think that he's evil. He does what he does because he thinks he's justified in doing that. And if you approach it that way, it's a little bit more fun.
And of course, in the movie, you got to work with Jodie Foster and Matt Damon. But Neil Blomkamp, who's given us District 9, touched on some of these issues before. So you sound like you were right there with the vision that he had for this movie.
Yeah, I think Neil is a brilliant man. And as you said, he did this with District 9 and does it again with this. And I think what I love about his work is that he keeps it real. I mean, it could be a science fiction, but there is a real anchor in the real world, and there's an identifiable, through line between the issues of today and how he presents it.
So, okay, as far as the movie, it does touch on the immigration, and like we were just saying, immigration, integration. But I did hear, I was just reading something this morning on the movie about, there was a prank that was played on set on Matt Damon.
Maybe I wasn't there that day. Because Matt and I, the way the movie's set up, I want to know what this prank was, because I'm sure somebody played a prank on him. My side of the story is on Elysium, and Matt Damon's story is on Earth. So, we were literally in two separate worlds.
I see. It was just, I heard a prank about someone trashed his dressing room and just totally destroyed it. I thought you might have seen any kind of blow up or anything about that.
No, I wasn't there, and it wasn't me. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so it wasn't. Okay, so we've clarified it, people. It was not him.
It was not me.
Or so he says. Just kidding. We're also going to be seeing you in Escape Plan here in October with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, look, I mean, let's start off with the fact that it's kind of history in the making. These guys are the biggest icons of action genre. There's never been anybody as big as they were in that genre. To see them both work on the project from A to Z was a real treat. Anyway, it's a really fun movie. It's action packed. It'll keep the audiences at the edge of their seats. But there is more to the script again that kind of makes it a layered movie, so people can find the action and all that, but there's some darker messages in there. So I'm very excited about it. I play someone who joins forces with these two guys, and we plan and try to escape out of an impenetrable prison. So that was a lot of fun to be able to work with them and just kind of be in this testosterone-filled world, which they know so well, and they understand every frame of it. They know that dance, every step of it so well that you never see the technique. You just see the artistry in doing it.
Well, I have one more question for you on Elysium that just kind of popped into my head because
Sure.
When people watch this movie, what are you hoping that they actually take away from this?
You know, I know, and I know people are going to love the spectacle of it. You know, the way these worlds are created, and I think it will transport the audiences to a whole other place. But I think, as I said earlier, I'm hoping that people are not going to walk away from it and move into their regular lives. I hope that it'll spark some conversation, some debate, some discussion, some discourse on these issues, like immigration and like elitism and you know, all of that kind of stuff which are the deeper messages of the movie. And I'm hoping that people will, you know, think about it and have discussions not just that night, but you know, the next day or the day after or whatever, and find this as a good reference point to spark that discussion.
Okay, I had another question from another one of our listeners. This is Chris, and he asked, what do you think of the stigma of Arab Americans being cast as villains?
You know, look, I mean, there is, are there Arab Americans being cast as villains? Yes. But I think there is a change in a lot of stuff that's being presented. There are now characters which are positive, which are coming out, which are Arab Americans. There is, you know, it is a stigma. I think the best thing to realize is that are there good guys and bad guys in every culture and every part of the world? Yes, there are. I hope in my life and in my career that if I play a couple of bad guys, that I balance it out with some good guys so that I'm not stereotyped. There are more of us in numbers, and we're showing different kinds of talents. They're comedians. They're theatrical actors who come from that background. There are people on television and film. So I'm hoping that it's going to change, and we're going to find a more diverse way of portraying these characters.
And you definitely see that in a lot of roles being acted out on TV and in movies. You are seeing more of a balance these days, and I gotta say,
it's a journey. It's a journey, you know. And I think without having an agenda, we just can't be complacent about, you know. You also have to look at the conceit of the piece. If they're trying to be negative for the sake of being negative, then you have to call people out on it. You not by being combative, but by trying to engage people in a discourse, in a discussion. So maybe you might not change their mind today, but maybe down the line it might have some effect. So it's more about trying to find that tone of how to engage people and how to dispel some of the stereotypical notions people might have. Which is not to say that, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that let's turn all Arab Americans into saints or all, you know, or evil. I think we just need to find that balance is my point.
Well, not everybody can be good. This is entertainment. We have to have an antagonist somewhere, no matter what the person is.
Yeah.
So, okay, besides Elysium and, of course, Escape Plan coming out, what else can we hope to see you in here soon?
You know, I'm very pleased that right now in the next 6 months, I have 4 movies coming out. I have Elysium coming out, and then I have Escape Plan coming out, and then I have 2 smaller projects. One is called Torn, which is a story of 2 families, one South Asian American and one Caucasian American family losing their teenage sons in a shopping mall explosion. And it deals with corrosion of relationships, dealing with the tragedy, dealing with the investigation of this tragedy, and what that does to people, the people who are left behind. It's an interesting piece, and I'm glad that in the midst of these big action movies, I get to also present something a little different. And then I have a supernatural thriller coming out called Jinn, Jinn, in which I play this guy pretty much in a straitjacket, in an asylum. So it's a nice variety of things, and hopefully it shows, as we talked about, not getting stereotyped. Hopefully it'll show a nice range of characters.
Well, that's one thing you definitely have, sir, and it's been a pleasure to interview with you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, Elysium is set for an August 9th release. I'm going to be in line to see this one, and Mr. Tahir, thank you once again from all of us over here at Cinemalinks.com and SCNS Live.
I really appreciate you taking out the time and talking to me.